This is not Overwatch with mods. This is Marvel Rivals, a newly released 6v6 hero shooter with all your favorite Marvel characters. Well, except for Deadpool or Wolverine, which I kinda feel like is a missed opportunity for an easy advertisement. But nonetheless, I've been playing Marvel Rivals for the past 4 days, and I've been having a pretty good time playing it. A lot more than I thought I would. When I was watching the reviews about it during the original beta test around 2 months ago, I thought the game looked pretty boring and seemed like a carbon copy Overwatch clone, waiting to be released and fall into the same fate as Overwatch. There was even a whole debacle where content creators were being sponsored by the Marvel Rival creators and being contractually obligated not to criticize the game, which was a huge red flag for everyone. And even Marvel Rivals saw how the community was reacting, and they took that out of the agreement so that the content creators could actually give their honest opinion on the game, which is how it should be anyway. But to my surprise, the game is doing way better than expected. Now, Marvel Rivals has not fully released yet as of recording this video on August 1st. The beta still has 3 more days until it's closed, and then we can expect to wait until Q1 or Q2 of 2025 for the full release. And I think I speak for all players of Marvel Rivals when I say, it's really unfortunate we have to wait so long. I mean, by that point, I'm probably going to be playing Black Ops 6 and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to come back and play it on release. I'm sure I will. And they'll most likely have new polished content for us to sink our teeth into too. Not to mention how the game will be completely free to play, so you don't need to dish out $70 to play it. And it's unknown if we could expect another closed beta from the developers of Marvel Rivals, but I would say it's not unlikely. We've already had 2 for Rivals, and we've seen it done many times before. So far, it's been a pretty fun game, and I would really hate to wait to have to play it more. I'm seeing a lot of people say the game gives you the same feeling you had when you played Overwatch 1 for the first time back in 2016, and while I didn't end up playing it until maybe 2018, I totally understand what they mean. It feels like the game's been on a slow decline since at least 2020, and we haven't really felt the same feeling since then. They slowly killed the game by making false promises and, well, purposely not updating it to kill the player base for Overwatch 2. Then Overwatch 2 came out, some of the fans came back, and they made a bunch more false promises and updated it too much, and they made sure the player base stayed dead. And here we are in 2024, and Marvel Rivals is making Overwatch piss their pants because they stole their last remaining players who are waiting for a 6v6 shooter. We're not going to talk about Concord, don't worry. In this video at least. But let's get into Marvel Rivals and why it's actually pretty fun. So starting off, I want to say that one of the biggest criticisms I'm seeing about the game is due to how it, well, plays and feels exactly like Overwatch. And well, I see why some people say that. Personally, I think it's very similar, but Marvel Rivals changes everything just enough so that it's actually interesting and new. For example, a comparison I'm seeing a lot right now is Venom and Star-Lord, being almost the exact same as Wrecking Ball and Tracer. Which, yeah, they're similar in some distinct ways. It almost feels more like a homage to the corresponding hero without straight up copying the character and their playstyle. Star-Lord has similar guns to Tracer, and that's about it. They share no abilities or anything like that. And Venom has similar abilities to Wrecking Ball, but, you know, without the Wrecking Ball. They have 2 very common abilities that are similar, and that's all. If you've gone and played through the roster, you've probably noticed how the heroes of Marvel Rivals are just mashups of different hero archetypes from Overwatch. I honestly love all the heroes introduced in the beta. We have 23 currently, and we know Dr. Doom is coming alongside several more heroes that could be introduced at launch. We just got an update a few days ago adding Thor and Jeff to the roster. In fact, they were added the day I started playing the beta, so that was pretty cool. I've seen a few people talk about how they were getting tired of Marvel Rivals, and that update kept them engaged. And I know that I've enjoyed playing both of these heroes, especially Thor. He's similar to Reinhardt, who I main in Overwatch, except Thor is a little different and less of a powerhouse. Speaking of the heroes, we're gonna get into them in a moment here, but I think it's pretty interesting, and I haven't really heard anybody talk about this. It's pretty interesting that they released a big update including 2 major characters during this closed beta. I feel like we really never see updates to betas, or at least big updates like this, and I think it was a great idea. They want to make sure that they give the player base content early, so they build that trust for consistent updates and content for the game. So pretty much the opposite of what Multiverses did. The heroes are separated, just like Overwatch, with tank, DPS and a support system, but they're called something else. There's also this system called team-ups, where if your team chooses all the characters necessary, you will receive some kind of bonus. For example, if Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and the Hulk are in a team together, they will receive some kind of modifier, like Iron Man's ability being powered by gamma radiation and doing incredible damage. So we're going to go over each of the heroes, and I'm not going to explain their entire list of abilities, but we'll talk about what I think of them. First up in the tank category, or what Marvel Rivals calls it, the Vanguards, we have Doctor Strange, who I've played a single time, but I love having him as a teammate, so that they can use their portal to make getting to the objective way faster. Obviously, it's a little similar to Symmetra's teleporters from Overwatch, but portals is a pretty common and basic ability in this kind of game, and a given for the character. You'll notice that's the case with most of the heroes that people have a problem with in this game. Then we have Groot. Groot is a great defensive and distractive hero. His attack can reach pretty far, and he has these two weaker, smaller root walls that he can place after a cooldown, and a bigger iron root wall that's way stronger. Regardless of which wall is placed, if Spider-Zero touches the wall, it'll be instantly destroyed. And then we have the Hulk / Bruce Banner. He's probably one of the simplest characters to play alongside Punisher, which we'll get to. He's kind of like Diva, where after depleting his health, he's transformed into Bruce Banner and has a small health bar. Moving on to Magneto, who you might have guessed is a little similar to Sigma. He's probably one of my least favorites, especially in the tank category. He's really slow, but his attacks do pack a punch. Then we have Penny Parker, who's very close to Magneto on my list. Her guns are pretty slow, but she can take a lot of hits, and she's more of a defensive character. And since her main abilities are traps, she's not good with pushing objectives. Now we have the recently released Thor, and as I already mentioned, he does feel like Reinhardt, obviously because they both use hammers, but Thor is just a lot weaker and smaller in comparison, and his abilities compensate for the difference in the playstyles, with 3 rechargeable throwable hammers, forward charge, and a shield bubble. For the tanks, we have Venom, by far the best tank and so far my favorite character to play. I already mentioned how people feel like he plays like Wrecking Ball, and while I don't disagree, I also just don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, it even makes sense for his character, so I don't understand why it's a problem for people. Now moving on to the DPS, or known as Duelist. We have Spider-Man. I've seen a lot of people comparing Spider-Man to Genji, and I don't really see it. He uses melee attacks and webs to attack. Spider-Man really does feel like his own hero. This is just my opinion on him though. I haven't really played him too much since he's a pretty hard hero to actually play effectively. Pretty much any melee hero kind of just feels like a new kind of fresh character. The Punisher. Now this man will surprise you. If you were to take the 3 easiest characters to play in Overwatch, who would they be? If you said Soldier 76, Reaper, and Bastion, then you guessed correctly. And the Punisher is a combination of all 3 of them. He has an assault rifle, shotgun, he can whip out a whole turret out of nowhere. Storm is a pretty lame character in my opinion. She just had a lot of potential as a character, and her abilities are a little anticlimactic toward her character. Magic, on the other hand, is kind of an OP duelist. If the right person is playing her, you can seriously mess the other team up. She uses a sword, and she's really fun to play with, and I always feel like I'm bullying the other team when I pick her. And then we have the Black Panther, who's another melee character like Spider-Man and Magic, except he's more inconvenient because you have to be pretty accurate and he does less damage, so he's not really anything special. I've only played him once and I probably won't again, he's just boring. And then by far my favorite duelist, we have Iron Man. So Iron Man is basically Pharaoh, only way better. He can fly infinitely and he's insane at wiping out multiple enemies at once, especially if we're talking about his ultimate. Next up we have Scarlet Witch, which is sort of a weird one for me because I hate her and I don't at the same time. She's by far the most annoying character to play against in my opinion. Her main attack is slow and low damage. If you have a good healer on your team, then it's really no problem. Her problem is her ult. If she activates that thing and there's no immediate cover, then you're dead. It's crazy how far that ult actually reaches, and she gets me every time. She's pretty fun to play, but she has a really limited kit, so I don't play her often. Then we have Star-Lord. I already mentioned everybody is calling him Tracer, but he has completely different abilities. Instead of boosting forward and reversing, he can fly and jump in the air. Now we have Hela, who can do really good damage numbers, but you have to be accurate with her and hit your headshots for this big damage boost. So I haven't really played her all that much. She just hasn't really interested me as a hero. Down to the final and by far the least liked DPS character, we have Namor. Namor? I don't know. I have human half Atlantean. He doesn't do great damage, but he does have turrets you can drop down, and they can be good and effective, but they're also very destructible and very noticeable. Now we're getting into the strategist or the support characters, and I want to start this one with the recently added Jeff the Shark. Jeff the Shark was a character introduced in the Gwenpool comics and later the Deadpool comics, and he has made his way into the Marvel Rivals, and he is a fan favorite right now. Everybody loves him. I mean, just look at this. How can he not be your favorite hero? He also has a pretty cool kit, and is a really powerful healer. Next we have another less recently added character, Adam Warlock. He was introduced with Venom at the start of the beta on the 24th I believe, and by far Adam Warlock has to be one of the most OP healers in the game. He's definitely my go-to when my team needs one. His ultimate is a revive ability that can revive your entire team at once. And Loki. God, I hate playing against the Loki. I don't hate the character himself, but rather the constant Lokis that are flooding the battlefield from his ability, and anytime you go to kill them, they're always sneaky enough to escape by switching to a clone. Luna Snow is actually a pretty neat character. I had no idea who this was until I started making this video. She's actually a K-pop ice hero, and her ult is pretty similar to Zenyatta's from Overwatch as well. Then we have Rocket Raccoon, who is a pretty interesting hero. You don't have a lot of health, but his gun does a ton of damage. And as Rocket, you can climb on the shoulders of some characters. The only one I can remember for sure was Groot. Since we're talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy, Mantis just feels like a weaker variant of Luna Snow. She doesn't really add anything special aside from her ability to stun momentarily. That covers the current roster of Marvel Rivals, but I found this list online that came from a supposedly credible leaker, but I can't confirm that, so take this with a grain of salt. Here is a supposed upcoming list of heroes for launch. Human Torch, Hawkeye, Captain America, Cloak and Dagger, Ultron, Moon Knight, Squirrel Girl, Black Widow, Mr. Fantastic, Winter Soldier, Blade, Cyclops, I don't know how to say that, Wolverine, Invisible Woman, The Thing, and Iron Fist. That's it? Damn it. Still no Deadpool. I really think Deadpool is just what this game needs. Or you know what they should just do? Make a Deadpool game. But like, officially this time. Anyway, that's about all I've got for today's video. Hope you've all enjoyed, and I have another video just on the horizon. I don't want to spoil this one just yet, but I'll be announcing it in my community tab soon. And after that video is out, I will finally upload a One Piece video. Anyway, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace out.